Chronomaster is a surreal point-and-click sci-fi adventure game released back in 1995. The majority of the story was written by the late great science fiction author Roger Zelazny before he died, and was subsequently finished by his widow, Jane Linskold. Development of pocket universes is not just possible but quite common amongst wealthy elites. These pocket universes are tailored to the owner's desires, can even have their own set of physical laws. You play as Rene Corda, one of the most renowned universe designers, which sort of makes him a kind of fancy landscape gardener for rich cunts. He's been tempted out of retirement by the Terran Command, who want him to figure out who's breaking into a series of pocket universes and shutting them down. This will require Rene to visit each world with his supply of bottled time and trusty multi-tool to find the world key and reactivate the flow of time and identify the saboteur.
Incoming from the Terran Regional Representative.
Tell the representative that I'm retired. The last thing I want to do is deal with a stuffed shirt. And, don't call me Sugar Pop.
Right. A wise and powerful maker of universes. Listen, this call is coded emergency. Maybe we shouldn't just put her off. The trouble with stuffed shirts is that when they blow up, they make a terrible mess.
Put the representative through.
Mr. Corda, I know you are retired, but we need you to deal with a very sensitive, very secret matter.
It's typical detective point-and-click fare here. You have a command bar at the top of the screen with all the icons arranged in no particular order, and you can't rearrange them. There's also no keyboard shortcuts because people in the future apparently don't use keyboards anymore. This is a result of Dreamforge going for a combination of the LucasArts style verb salad interface and the more graphical Sierra style, but it's managed to incorporate the worst of both with none of its strengths. You will get used to it after a while, but it's never intuitive and it'll always be a source of some frustration and mistakes. You can also forgo the command bar and just cycle through all of them with the right mouse button, but dear Christ, that gets tedious quickly.
You never know, with the universal tool, even a rock can be useful at times.
The main aim of the world is to find the world key to restart the flow of time. You do this by finding the magnetic north pole of the world and setting up a scanner on it. This will then direct you straight to the key. You can move in these frozen universes through the use of bottled time, which you can see as a kind of bubble around Corda. Bottled time can also be used on objects or other people in the universes, and things will even just spontaneously start up again as soon as you get close. This mechanic is wonderfully done, with some of the puzzles requiring you to allow a certain event to proceed before you can capitalise on the outcome. It can also lead to some of the frequent deaths, as dangerous scenes now suddenly kick back into the gear the instant you stray too close.
Bomb! Jump for it!
Chronomaster boasts not only stellar writing chops, but a solid voice cast too. Corda is voiced by none other than Ron Perlman in one of his first roles, Milo was voiced by Brent Spiner, and the ship's AI jester is voiced by Lolita Davidovich. They even do a decent job of it too. Perlman at times sounds like he'd rather be somewhere else, but is decent for the most part. The sound design is quite good too, nicely setting each theme, but it does tend to lapse out and leave the whole thing feeling rather silent. The cutscenes fall down because the characters are just shit plastic dolls who communicate solely by waving their arms. The graphics in this were actually quite bad even by 1995 standards. You'll visit several pocket universes, and as mentioned, each can and do often have their own variation on physics. The themes of the planets are all completely different, and the fact that these are artificial worlds justifies all the sort of random characters and constructed problems. Not to mention that the frozen time element is the best excuse ever for having the world revolve around the player character. For the most part, the game provides lots of solid adventuring along the lines of talking to other characters and helping them so that they will help you. There's many interesting and varied locations to explore, including the second worst maze in gaming fucking history, and lots of
borrowed
items to
time,
use.
so we have
Often
limited
there's far too many,
Rescue?
as because
Alright.
there's more than one way
Now that
to
you know we're
overcome
here,
particular
the other
problems,
set
so
to
your
strike.
inventory often ends up with half a dozen
Without
items at the end of every mission,
Wait.
leaving you thinking that you've
Just
missed
who are
loads
you?
when in fact you haven't.
I'm Renee Corda. From what I see here, I'd guess that Herbs was thrown into stasis just as the guards fired. You're lucky I came along.
Stasis. Just as I was going to be shot. This is a trick. You're one of Dieter's men, and this is a hoax to get me to
The
talk.
variation in the writing and level designs poses yet another difficulty, as the game seems aimed at a science fiction audience with its space travel and technology, yet much of the
Sound like
adventuring
you're
takes
hungry,
place in
sugar pop.
fantasy worlds incorporating everything from talking plants,
afraid I don't
flying
have
talking
any
carpets,
that.
magic spells and so on. I quite enjoyed how it managed to run both trails through the game, but I know there's many other players that are firmly in one camp or the other.
Oh,
On
great.
balance, I suppose
I
it's
beg your
the sci-fi
forgiveness.
enthusiast who may be the most disappointed, though those who prefer a more fantasy-based adventure may well be put off from trying Chronomaster in the first place by its initial science fiction feel. In any event, this is an adventure game through and through, and the designers have correctly resisted putting in any combat or arcade sequences.
But it can be done.
In conclusion, despite my criticisms, I found a lot to like in Chronomaster. The story is entertaining and each of the pocket universes you visit provides an interesting variety of puzzles and obstacles to overcome. Though Rene Corda himself is dull, the game has some humour, some good puzzles, and at times it gently parodies similar scenarios in other popular adventure games. If you're a point and click fan and you're looking for a wee bit of history that's somewhat off the beaten path, Chronomaster has the time for you.
Son of a